let's get to the reason we're all here tonight. Tonight's speaker is Christian Idiodi. I'm super excited to have him speak here. He is a partner at Silicon Valley Product Group. I'm sure everyone on the line is familiar with Silicon Valley Product Group, started by Marty Kagan, thought leaders in product management. And before that, he's a product leader at several different companies. Snagajob, CareerBuilder, you guys have probably heard of. Again, his Twitter handle is at CIDIODI. And he's going to be talking to us about knowing what you can't know, enhanced product discovery. So with that, let me let you share the screen and take it over, Christian. Welcome. Awesome talk, Christian. What we're going to do now is we're going to switch to a little fireside chat. We're going to follow up on some discovery questions here, and then we'll open it up to questions. So a lot of engagement, got a lot of questions in the chat. If you do have questions for Christian, please put them in the chat. And then I've already got some of them curated, and then I will ask some other ones. So let's jump into discovery. We talked a lot about discovery, a lot of great ideas. I want to start out with like a rough estimate, because you and I have both seen a lot of teams. What percentage roughly, like what portion of product teams do you think do a good job with discovery?
Oh, it's a trick question. Well, and it's tricky because unfortunately, not many.
Right.
And not many because many teams don't have the conditions I laid out. Right. They don't also just work for enhanced techniques like I talked about. They just work for simple discovery techniques. By the conditions, I mean, are you empowered, right? Is there true collaboration happening? And so I see many people that think they are doing discovery and they're not. They say, well, I'm validating an idea. Well, that's great, but your job is to come up with a solution.
Right.
You know, if you validated the idea and it wasn't a great idea, then what? Right? Or they are confusing, planning with prototyping, or they are confusing, right? So there are many techniques and approaches here. Remember, discovery is the rapid way we go quickly and cheaply to answer and tackle those questions. So unfortunately, not as much as we would like. And this is often where we get a ton of garbage in and garbage out. Most of the methodologies out there emphasize a ton on good delivery. Right. And we have champions like Dan, yourself, and some of the discovery coaches that are truly trying to champion discovery now.
Right. Cool. One thing, if you could stop sharing, then the video of you will be bigger for the fireside chat.
Perfect.
All right, cool. There we go. And then, awesome, cool. Now we're side by side. Awesome, cool. So yeah, that was kind of a lead into the next one, which is, why is it that more product teams don't do a better job? What are the top issues you see that prevent them, from doing? I know you covered a couple, but what are the top?
Yeah.
Recap again. Why?
It will blow your mind. I think one of those that truly hits me is it's framing upfront, right?
Oh, okay.
There's just poor framing upfront. Meaning, I see so many teams that are working on things where they don't know why they are working on it. I say to them, what is the business objective we're going after here? Well, they struggle to it. I said, okay, great. All right. How would people know you're succeeding at doing it? They don't even know. Now, that's proven for the business. Then you turn on the framing on the customer. What is really the customer problem you're solving here? Well, they struggle to articulate. They say, who are you solving this for? Everybody. All of our internal customers, all of our external customers, our business. Wow. Right? So many teams struggle with just framing, understanding their problems they're trying to solve, knowing why and who they're solving it for. I also see teams struggling with access to customers, truly immersing themselves with customers and getting answers from it. And then this wrongful attribution of value, right? So because my CEO or my VP told me to do this, it must be valuable. Right. And this is one way of kind of saying, you're a future team. You get a roadmap that you just implement.
Right. Yeah, no, it's fun. That last one is great. Like the number of times I've heard a PM or even a senior PM go, well, the VP said we should do this, so they must know. They must know. And then I know you get to that point in your career, you realize, wait a minute, like the emperor has no clothes. Like nobody knows. No one has firsthand evidence. Like no one got out of the building. Right. You said, you realize it's all like a house of cards that starts falling down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's funny. Yeah, definitely. And then, yeah, on the empowered part, that's really important too. So when you think about the teams, let's flip it around, the top 5-10% of teams that are doing discovery really, really well. What sets them apart? What advice would you have from those teams to share with other teams that want to get better?
Great question. And look, I build products every year. You know, it's kind of part of my team. I advise student teams. They go from idea to execution and revenue in a short amount of time. I pressure cook discovery every day. And part of it is I want to keep my muscle on it and look at new trends and techniques out there. The best teams that I see do discovery, a couple of things stick out. Great collaboration. And forget the buzzword like collaboration. When I mean like collaboration, it's like Dan is a designer and Billy is an engineer, and we are tied at the hip in it all the time. I'll tell you the extreme end of collaboration. When I build products, I don't write stories. I don't tell any other person what to build, because everything is about shared learning. There is nothing I know that the engineers don't know. So why am I writing a story to tell them that? Mm-hmm. A story is a way of communicating my intent in a way, and then you get things like acceptance criteria. What is the acceptance criteria? You know the problem we're trying to solve. You see the solution. Actually, you came up with the solution yourself. Why am I describing it to you in a story? The best person to tell another engineer what to do is actually an engineer. And so in any case that there needs to be something written, an engineer does a lot of it for me. So I see this dynamic of these teams have so much serendipity in working together. Sure. They are tied at the hip. There's a lot of trust in the team. There's psychological safety for people to speak up. They don't really have assumptions. You know, they have this whole mindset and a culture of learning. It's safe for them to do it. And, you know, engineers are involved. Crazy enough, engineers are leading.
Right. Well, that's a good point, which is that all these kind of ceremonies and documents are a way to transfer information across silos, if you will. Like if you're really collaborating, then the knowledge should be shared, as you said, right?
And it's the extreme end of it. That's right. If you're really collaborating.
Yeah. But I think the interesting thing is some of us have been fortunate to work in environments where you've got a talented designer, because it's two parts. One is collaboration. The other is a certain level of talent. I'll take collaboration over talent any day if we need to.
Yes.
But you know, they haven't worked in a place with that amazing team collaboration. You know,
yes.
So it's hard for them to envision.
That's right. So,
yeah. Okay. And then you brought up a good thing, which is, you know, this is the thing is, so when you don't have 100% collaboration like that, and most places you do need it, you want to share, you're getting a lot of insights and learning from your discovery. You want to share them, whether it's with your team, whether it's with stakeholders, or whether it's over time, recognizing that in the tech industry, people are going to come and go, and you don't. So what, have you seen any, you know, best practices for how to capture and share those insights that your team is generating in product discovery?
Yeah. My personal favorite is a story map or a journey map. Now, because what I do is, you know, remember I'm trying to deconstruct the space. So I am telling the story of how somebody finds a job or whatever industry, you're telling the story of how people are in that. Right. If I get an insight, the way I share it with the team is by adding to the story. See, I look at my job as, you know, the reason I tell stories is because it sticks with people. Right. And it gives them context. They know what happened before, what happened after. They understand their role in trying to create a solution as part of it. And so I use a story map because I look at it as a living, breathing document, not a one and done, or a journey map if it's for your particular problem space. Mm-hmm. And I update it. Anytime I talk to a customer and I gain knowledge, I bring back that story. I say, well, I met with Dan. Dan has 2 kids. All of our customers have 1 kid. This is new. Look at what I learned about Dan. And I add to the story. And I add the unique things I have learned about Dan to the story.
Okay, so journey maps and story maps are
I'm saying that because I know people love Confluence pages and write-ups. And look, I'm not knocking all of these tools. The reason I talk about extreme collaboration is because, you know, you're going to get 2 schools of thoughts. How do I inform other people about what we're doing? You know, documentation and stuff, that's great. The process of doing your work truly collaboratively you create work product.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And your work product is the output of your learning, your shared learning. That is a more meaningful document than the document of me telling you what to do or telling you what I learned. It should be, this is what we all learned.
Right.
Okay.
So focus the documentation on learning then and insights.
That's right.
Opposed to other stuff.
As opposed to let me tell you what I had. I am too lazy a product manager. Come to the meeting with me and the customer.
Right.
We should all learn together and share.
That's important because there's the difference between firsthand evidence and hearsay. If a PM comes in and says, hey engineer, I talked to 5 customers. They all said it should be green. They're like, is that just Dan thinking it should be green?
That's right. That's right. Plus, if the engineer were in the meeting, they'll say, well, they didn't really say green. They said light green.
Yeah.
Right? Like you get a different perspective, and that actually makes your solution better.
Right. Cool. So you shared a lot of good stories about discovery. I love the Starbucks, McDonald's example. I think that's very tangible, and it shows you how you iterate what you learn, and then you get found an anti-pattern with the airport. It's wonderful. What's one of the most surprising things you learned from a discovery where you thought one thing and then you went out there and you got like a complete curveball or one? I'm sure you have
Actually, it's the reverse, Dan.
Okay.
I think the one surprising thing was the one time in my career that I actually was right up front.
Oh, okay.
And because I'm always going in with the I am wrong, and it helps me no more. And this time around, I was like looking for somebody to not like it, or somebody to tell me otherwise in it. And part of it is a mentality of just really trying to think, this whole premise of knowing what you can't know.
Right.
I constantly pressure test my ideas. Literally the day before I'm about to launch a product, I might just change something in it drastically, just to see if it, I get a lower score in terms of customer satisfaction on the last minute. Like, is this really right? Because we bake in so much bias.
Sure.
Into the things we love. We make ourselves the customer once we connect with the pain.
Right.
And we really are not.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah. And you talked about discovery versus delivery and kind of hinted, I see the same thing. Most companies tend to focus on delivery and, like 100%, most companies, it's 100% delivery. If you're lucky, it's 95 or 10% or 90% delivery. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of the people listening are very sympathetic. They want to do more discovery, but they're in an environment where it's not a natural kind of thing in the culture. What advice would you have for them to convince other people how to get buy-in that, hey, we really should be spending more time on discovery?
Yeah. Well, there's a significant risk of not doing discovery. Actually, the companies that struggle with not doing discovery actually need it more. Because what happens, they're like, look, we're a highly regulated environment. We don't have time to test and learn. We actually, because we can't make mistakes, we have to do what our customers want in a regular. Actually, you're crying out that there's so much risk. If you look at what happens there, they have a big issue. They always end up with one lawsuit. Then they build a new process and a new bureaucracy to manage it so that it doesn't happen. They want to stop people from doing bad things, but not create an environment that promotes good things. So it's actually an interesting thing that most cultures that companies that push back on discovery actually need it more. They just don't understand what it is.
Sure.
Right? When you describe to them, because if you think about it, if technology is used to save to serve the business, then the business just tells you what to do. Build this for me. And that means it's a project.
Right.
But if you say, what's the problem? The business hands you the problem, then you come up with the solutions. And you want to tell them discovery is the way, not just that we come up with the best solution, because what happens in today's world is we come up with the fastest solution, not the best, because you've given us a date already.
Yeah.
Right? And so we come up with the best solution, but also that we tackle all of the risk and the concerns you have up front.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point, that many of the companies that are the worst offenders are the ones that need it most. It's almost like there's a blindness to the risk, or unawareness or blindness or ignorance of the uncertainty or risk, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so how do you break through that to make people aware? Like, what advice? Like, imagine you're the 1 PM it sounds like you're describing a fintech company to me, like a financial company, right? There's compliance and all this.
Yeah,
The lawyers are telling you why you can't do anything. If you're the one like Lone Ranger PM trying to make things right, like what advice would you have for trying to get buy-in there? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, when I tried to get people, the reason I called out framing in the beginning as a problem, when I try to have conversations with a leader in an organization about discovery, I don't go into techniques or I need to do discovery.
Right.
I take the most important thing to them. I say, what is the biggest problem you have? Or what do you want us to work on? You should tell me the name of the future you want. Right? Because everybody has the thing they like. I want this.
Sure.
Then I do a little frame. Why do you want this? And I say, wouldn't it be good if I know how success looks like? Now, what I'm doing there is I'm anchoring them on the why.
Right.
And they're not going to name the future anymore. They're going to say, we want to get more revenue or more customers or customer satisfaction. And what I'm doing there is I'm anchoring them on value. Then I ask them, what is the customer problem here?
Right.
Which many leaders struggle to describe.
Yeah. No, I like why. So the 5 whys, just asking why. When somebody proposes a solution, you say, why?
That's right.
What business objective? Why would that help us?
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Cool. All right. So then let's see here. The next question is, okay. So this kind of also talking about discovery and delivery. Let's say we're bought in on the discovery, but we've got this 2-week sprint in delivery, and we're trying to figure out how do we integrate, how do we get our trains, how do we get this discovery train or path to like sync up or integrate with the delivery train. So I heard a lot of teams struggle with that. What advice would you have for them there?
The biggest challenge I see many teams struggle with is that they are doing what you call discovery while they are doing delivery, right? So Dan, you're the product manager, you're going to build widget X. Then you tell the team, we're building widget X. The first question is, what is widget X? How do we build widget X? Who needs widget X? All of those questions, while we've already been assigned with, those are all discovery questions. Now, typically I either do a freeze, I tell the delivery organization, you know what? You are working on things we haven't discovered. So we are going to make an investment in tackling tech debt while we get ahead to answer some questions up front. And the single most important technique here in transitioning this is to get engineers involved in discovery, to empower them with the solution. If an engineer is saying, this is what I'm going to work on 3 months from now or next year, they have an opportunity to ask themselves, what is the best way to do it? Not what's the fastest. What concerns do I have? What questions do I have now, while it's a prototype without the date, to come up with? But the second you give them a date, it's fire drill time. They're not thinking about the best. They're not thinking, they don't have time to go through all of this because you have already committed them to a promise of delivering October 21st.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned that briefly. I think let's go into a little bit more. We often get deadlines. Like I like to say, it's amazing how many features ship on March 31st. Right?
That's right.
So again, you've got the buy-in for discovery. We don't know what we don't know, but no matter what, you got to launch something on March 31st. How do we reconcile that, the bottoms-up discovery with the tops-down?
Well, this is why techniques like this are perfect when I talk about a pressure technique, because the best way, data beats opinions. When you say, we've got March 31st, and you've got 90 days to not just discover this, but to develop it, this enhanced technique of the customer development technique I went through is the fastest way to do it, because to the extent that you need to push that date away, you actually have evidence from real customers. Your stakeholders are saying, well, look, in 30 days, we actually have 6 people we're already working with. This seems to be going great. Now, if those 6 people come and tell you, we don't want it like this, you actually have evidence to push back on that date.
Right.
But if you just say today, well, we can't build it in that amount of time, they're going to say, well, product is lazy, engineering doesn't know what they're doing, you need to do a better job, right? This is why I love this. It's like the enhanced interrogation technique for me, you know, in that way.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. That makes sense. So a couple people are saying, hey, could you remind them again? Can you just explain what's the pressure technique again, just to make, because maybe they didn't catch it.
Yeah, so the pressure technique here is immersing yourself in the environment of the customer, using the customer to build the product. So you're going to discover and deliver the product. At the same time, you're going to discover and deliver the problem. So if you framed it right, your business said, deliver this March 31st. What's the problem we're trying to solve? Your first goal is to go find 6 B2B customers, if it's B2B, or 25 B2C customers that have that problem, and use them to discover and develop the product at the same time.
Got it. Cool.
That's the pressure technique.
Got it. Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying that. Cool. Okay, now we just got done saying how most teams spend too much time on delivery. Have you ever seen an example of teams spending too much time on discovery?
Bless your heart. Well, I mean, an MVP is a good example of people tell me I've been working on an MVP for 8 months. I'm like, there's nothing M in that MVP. I don't, you know, but those are the things that make it tough for an organization to trust you. Like, it takes too long, and now discovery takes as long as it takes. But I've also seen discovery done in minutes, like 42 minutes. People have answered those questions with evidence. Yeah. And, you know, if you do those, it's okay if it takes a long time afterwards, because you've demonstrated that some things can be tackled that way. So it depends on the scope of the problem. If you're trying to discover the coronavirus vaccine, it's not going to happen in 6 months. Right. So there are some, it depends on the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And then who, you touched on this a little bit, you mentioned designer and developer, but just to be clear, who should ideally be involved with and participate in discovery?
Product management, product designer, your engineers,
right.
Your tech lead, you have somebody dedicated to it better. Right. Those are the, and if you remember, I told you the questions we're trying to answer. All of those people bring expertise into answering those questions. The product manager is value and viability. The engineer is feasibility. The designer is usability.
Right. Got it. Makes sense. Cool. And just to be clear, should the PM, the product manager, always be the one driving it, or can it be someone else, or should it be someone else?
Remember the whole idea of true collaboration? The only reason product managers tend to drive should be because the most important thing to establish is value.
Right.
Because there's no need to try to build something nobody wants. Right. Or nobody cares about. That's the only reason a product manager drives, is because your job is to ensure this is a problem worth solving, and this is something we should even be spending our time on.
Right.
So if you're calling us to the meeting after that, I don't care who drives. Actually, I want the engineer to drive. That tells me I've done a good job of exciting them about the problem, that they will come up with a solution they own.
Right. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Well, great. Thanks for the fireside chat. Let's switch to audience Q&A. So for our first question, we have Laura. Laura, if you're able, you should be able to unmute, and there we go. Hey, Laura.
Hello. Yeah. So my question is specifically around when you're immersing yourself, how would you recommend someone to immerse themselves when they're working in an environment that is highly sensitive, such as mental health care, homelessness, addiction counseling, and in that area?
Oh, what a great question. You know, one of my favorite interview questions, Laura, is I will ask the product manager, I'll say, look, I have a friend who is deaf or hearing impaired, and they just got a new job, and, you know, traditional alarm clocks don't work for them. Walk me through how you will come up with a solution for them. And I like to just see how people go about solving problems. And that's a unique one. You're like, you know, the people start to jump to the solution, some people, and then there are people that say, I don't know. And there are some that said, I will talk to the customer. I will immerse myself. I say, oh, great. Do you know sign language? Like, oh, they are deaf. They don't understand me. And you're trying to see how they deconstruct that. Now, in many cases here, there are content specialists or subject matter experts, people that understand and spend time in that environment, right? They are not a full proxy, you know, for a homeless person, but so help me, if you're trying to solve a problem for a homeless person, pressure cook yourself as a homeless person. You know, in as much as you can do it safely and securely, go out and spend time as a homeless person with a homeless person in context. What will happen is not that you not only would you accelerate the solution, but you will uncover a better solution through it. There are some areas that you may not be able to do that safely. So you find a subject matter expert like healthcare. If you're building something for doctors, none of you are doctors, and stuff. So you might have a doctor on payroll, and the doctor comes once a week, spends time with the team. They role play with the team. They fake it, kind of how they would do it, or how the mentor. So there are techniques we use to do that. They may be more costly than traditionally immersing yourself, but they're effective.
And you had a second. You want to ask your second question, Laura, about the absence of discovery, like what happened, if there's any evidence that you want to?
I feel like I asked so many questions. One of the other questions that I had, I think this is the one that you're talking about, was do you have any resources that have any case studies to show kind of in the absence of discovery, you know, there are some old school thinkers that all they really want to do is build. And so when you try to say, hey, let's take some time to do discovery, their response is, well, we don't have time to do that. So something that I think could be helpful for individual contributors trying to affect that change is if there were some solid case studies that showed that this is the ROI on doing discovery and this was like a severe pitfall. So that someone who is an individual contributor could say, hey, leaders, here is documentation from some big name companies that shows us, you know, from a small company to a big company, why this is an important technique for us to implement.
Yeah, I can't wait for the new book, Empowered, to come out, right? Inspired was designed for product teams. Empowered is designed for product leaders. And it may not emphasize discovery, but it emphasizes the work of leaders and the work of management in creating the right context and culture for good product work to happen. And discovery is one component of great product work happening, right? The whole premise here is that great products come from great teams. Great teams are made up of ordinary people, right? And so we want leadership to get involved in driving this. And so the book is coming out in December. It's targeted for leaders to equip them with the kind of thinking and the tools they need to support individual contributors in product work. Good.
Great, thanks, Laura. Okay, cool. We have a few more people. Cynthia Castro, are you there? Do you want to ask your question? Or Francesco? No, nobody replied to me, so I texted you all. Or Hemant, any of you three, if you want to jump in with your question. Let's see. Okay. So I can. So that was a question. There were a couple questions that Laura asked about regulated environment, things like that. Cynthia's question, I'll ask it, is basically, we currently have trios, PM, product manager, and tech lead, who discovered work. They also have 3 other engineers. So we'd love to include the 3 engineers. Would 6 people be overkill for discovery?
So typically, what I ask engineers to do in discovery is spend 30 minutes a day in discovery. And what are they doing during those 30 minutes? They are playing with prototypes. So your tech lead is responsible for feasibility. He's coaching the other engineers and describing what they build. But every day, because those other engineers, you need them focused on delivery. If not, you won't be able to deliver things. You want them delivering. But how do they get involved in discovery? 30 minutes a day. They play with a prototype of what's coming next. And hopefully next is next quarter, not next week, right? And then they're asking themselves 2 questions as they're playing with the prototype. What is there a better way to do this? And is there anything that brings me concern? That's what they're doing early. And they get involved because they can ask all of those questions safely because they have time. They're not under the pressure of, I've got to build it now. They are under the pressure of, we're discovering, I have enough time to uncover better ideas and to contribute to a better idea.
Cool, okay. And then there's one other, Francesco. Let's see, his question was, oh, for a small product team, 1 PM, 1 designer, 2 engineers, what's the right balance of percentage of time spent on discovery versus implementation? 1 decimal point is enough, Christian.
Yeah, that's right.
Adequate, yeah.
Thank you. That helps. That's really good.
You can unmute if you want. If you want to turn your, anyway, if not, it's cool.
Okay.
What's your question, Francesco?
Did you want to repeat, set a question, Francesco? Did you want to jump in?
That was his question. I think his video.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking I have some issues with my video here. Can you hear me now?
Hey, there we go.
Okay, perfect, great, thanks. Yeah, thanks for answering the question. I think like the issue is like with small small team, you have small resources as well, right? And have to focus a lot, and so you feel this trade-off of in terms of velocity really quickly if you take away any resources from direct implementation. And so we just grew our team with a product designer, senior product designer, and have 2 engineers on the front end side. And so the question is like, how much do we involve them into the discovery, whereas like have them really hardcore working on the products and implementation?
I mean, you want your, I always tell this because the reverse is also true. If you're a product manager, you could be spending way too much time in implementation. I mean, what are you doing there? Are you an engineer? Are you coding? No. Like, what are you doing in delivery? You're providing status updates and removing blockers. You're doing alignment meetings. You're providing clarity. All of those things are indication of poor discovery. It's actually an interesting dilemma because if you say, let's spend more time so that we can implement, I still say, what's the product manager and designer? What are they doing in implementation? Well, you know, they are helping tweak, they are writing stories, they are answering. I'm like, well, that is the outcome of good discovery. If you do good discovery, you have less meetings, you have less alignment issues, less clarity issues, right? Now it's hard to see, but I tell you can't spend more than 1 hour a day in delivery for a product manager. Engineers, yep. I'm only asking for 30 minutes a day. If 30 minutes for your engineers every day makes them miss your implementation magical deadline so much, you have a different cultural problem, right? But it's not hard to say, look, all I want is just, and let me tell you what they're doing. It's not like I am making them do crazy things. They are just looking at what's coming next and they're answering 2 questions. Is there a better way to do this? And what concerns do I have? That's it. Right? Easier for your culture to get used to, like, you know, but when they don't know what discovery is, they think it's bigger. You're going to distract everybody. It's going to take too long. We're no longer going to implement. Yeah. Okay. Good question.
30 minutes is a good target. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Good.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Francesco. So the next question, I think we have Sandy. I think you had 2 questions, Sandy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Christian, that was a really great talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think my first question was, you spoke a lot about great team members and great collaboration. What are some things that a team or a product leader can do to go from dysfunction to high functioning?
Yeah, a great question. The number one reason why leaders don't empower teams, why companies tell people what to do, is trust. And, you know, the argument is that trust is a function of 2 things, competency and character. In many cases, I don't think companies hire bad people or people without integrity or bad character. They mostly don't trust them because they don't believe they are competent. They have the skills to do the job at the level they expect, right? If you're a product manager, they're like, well, you don't know the customers more than I do, so I'm going to just tell you what to do. You don't know the business better than I do, so I'm going to tell you what to do. So, you know, that needs to be dealt with in some ways, the trust dynamic between teams and leadership. The most important thing that leaders need to be accountable for is coaching. Many leaders haven't experienced good coaching, but your competency falls on your manager. Their job is to coach you or anybody that reports to them to competency, meaning you can do the job at the level you're expected to, and towards your potential, that you get to the next level. That's not happening. It's probably the biggest draw in our industry. I see so many people, they say, well, Sandy is smart. She doesn't need anybody managing her. She can self-manage. And then they're angry at Sandy. I've told Sandy to get better at public speaking. Why is she not better at public speaking? Well, I'm sure if she could get better by herself, she would have done it already. She needs a coach. Even the best athletes need coach. The best teams in the world. Find the best teams. They all have coaches. You're like, wow, you're a rock star. You all are the best of the best, right? Because good coaches reinforce good behavior. They ensure that people continue to grow in their career, in their competence, their profession. They manage those dynamics, thinking like an owner, accountability, creating safe space and psychological safety, ensuring that conflict is managed, that collaboration is happening, modeling out good behavior, assessing and developing people. Leaders have to get better at that. No other magical secret formula. Take care of your people. Yeah.
I had a second and last question.
Sure.
I really like that technology adoption lifecycle, I guess, curve that you showed. And you talked about when you're doing customer discovery, you might want to focus on the folks that are in the left part, so the innovators and the early adopters. Does that presuppose that you yourself, in your personal behavior, are an innovator and early adopter? Because you're giving an example about Yelp. I'm probably early majority. I was like, oh, it doesn't have at least 50 reviews, so I'm not going to eat there.
Yes, yes. So, but that's the whole idea, right? Well, you're not counting yourself, but the whole idea is like, even if you want to count yourself, go for it. But you have to get 6 other people that, you know, that give it 5 stars. Like when I build apps, I don't launch an app in the App Store unless I have 25 real 5-star reviews. Someone says, what's my product market fit for knowing my app is ready? I've gotten 25 people that have used the app. They love it enough and they've given it 5 stars and written reviews. That's the day I know I am ready to go. Because you're right, Sandy, you are the person coming in like, do I trust this app? Right? And you're like, if you don't see 25, you know, it's okay. So that's the thinking behind it. You're targeting the early evangelists, early adopters, those people that have the problem, they use it, and they are willing to tell people about it.
Got it. Thank you.
Good. Excellent.
Okay, cool. Toby, looks like you were ready to go. Welcome. There we go.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Christian. This is an amazing, amazing talk. I had 2 questions. One of them, a quick shout out to Sachin. He responded to me privately, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well. So for a PM working in like a non-customer facing product space like infrastructure, what do you advise us to do to like be able to apply this customer development process or discovery process rather in a non-customer facing product space?
Well, so I mean, you have customers. If you're solving a problem for somebody, right? Who are you solving the problem for? Another team, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, providing like resource, like provisioning, for example, the account, like other teams are working on that.
Of course, these are platform teams, common services teams. We call them customer enabling teams. So I didn't spend time on the other example, which was Apple. So the team was actually a back-end team that used this technique, right? They are building the tools for the technicians in the Apple store to help people fix their phones. And they use this same technique. They found like 25 technicians in like 6 of the busiest Apple stores. So in your world, you will find the teams. I'm building tools for the customer center, for the other product teams. I'm going to work with these product people, and I'm going to make sure common services team, right? One solution fits all of them. If not, it's a special. Because remember, I'm sure you struggle with this. Everybody wants something and they want it now. Everything is important for them, right? And so because you're out of time, you're like, fine, I will just do it for you. And you build a customized solution for them. But your real job is to build a configurable solution for everybody. But you're out of time, so you build a configurable. So what you do here is you say, hold up, I am going to now get everybody involved that may need this. And I'm going to discover what they need and only build for you what everybody will use. You see that? So you're going to take that kind of request in your back-end team and say, look, this is great, but I'm now going to pull, because I have to, because if not tomorrow, another person is going to come with their request, and you are now building customized solutions for everybody. You're always firefighting. Your team should work on what's important and not what's urgent. right? Keep that in the back of your mind. What is
Yeah.
important, not just
Okay.
what's right in front of you. Good
Okay.
question.
Yes, and okay, so following up to that, if I've if okay, like honest truth, I worked on a project where, as you were talking, I realized like really poor discovery was like a reason why I spent, or I am still spending so much time in implementation and
Yes.
like delivery phase. So how what are ways where I can turn around the wheel, like at least going forward for like other projects, or even like, well, this case is already done because I'm here. I have to like get it done. But like for other projects, like how to take this learning and learning from the project itself and from what you've shared to do better discovery in, again, still not necessarily facing space. Yes.
Look, teams struggle with this, and you know, kind of the commitment you're making to yourself is, maybe I shouldn't start delivering anything that I have not discovered. Right? Now you say, what's discovery? Remember that slide I said, what's the purpose of discovery? The next thing you have, you say to yourself, can I answer these 4 questions with evidence and properly describe what to build? If you can't, then you say, I'm not really done with discovery. And you tell people, look, the problem with this is if I start doing delivery now, I'll be forced into doing discovery because I will still have the questions. It's like building a house and then halfway in it, you're like, oh, we need plumbing. You know, you're like, oh, you still need what you need. Yes. The questions will still come out. Ignoring it does not make it go away. Like, you know, we will answer it later. Yes. There will be a later. You just don't want that later to be while you have a date to deliver next week. Then everybody is scrambling.
Yes. Thank you so much. So with regards to the first company that you won the 1 million for, so what, like, where is the current status of the company, and like, what did you do eventually?
I mean, it did very well. We had other ideas from it. The company morphed that and integrated it into their current solutions. So it went from a standalone business into an integrated part of their current offering over time. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Yeah, good questions.
Yes. Thanks, Toby. Appreciate it. Okay, I think our next person with the question is Gigi. She said her video's not working, but her audio should be working. So there's.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for the talk. That was really very valuable. I had a question about transitioning. So I did get out of the building and talk to people. I don't think I was very organized with it, but I did do it. And I got some great responses from people. But my question is, at the most I get to talk to 6 to 8 people or 6 to 8 companies if it's B2B. How can I change that process or use that process so that it can transition better when you start looking at the growth phase? Because how can I be sure that the people I'm talking to are representative of a larger sample?
Great question. Now, not to confuse you, 6 to 8 is the output. You may need to talk to 50 people to find 6 to 8 people that are reference, right? So your product market fit is, the output of it is these 6 to 8 are the ones that are saying, I'm going to be your partner. I'm going to hang with you through this journey. I'm going to use it. And if it works well, I'm going to tell people about it. You may need to talk to 50 people to get to those 6 to 8. If you see the story I was telling, I do it a little organically. When I spoke to the person at McDonald's, all I knew then was that it works for people that look like McDonald's, or it worked for McDonald's. Then I had to find another company that looked like McDonald's, and another one, I had to get enough to say it may work for people that look like McDonald's. Now, to do that, you will kiss some frogs along the way. I told you the airport experience was bad. So you're going to find different things that allows you to learn because you're trying to discover who your customer is, who has this problem, right? And so you will probably need to talk to a lot of people for this to work. That's the muscle in it. And it is a demand signal as well. Meaning if you're talking to lots of people and you can't find 6 that have the problem, it may not be a problem worth solving in the first place.
So cast a wide net is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Cast a wide net, please do. And do it naturally. I tried to describe that with the philosophies in the beginning. that's kind of why I went into that. It's just like they didn't have this magical overall structure about, they didn't assume, you know, they went looking for the problems and they found out from casting the white net what the personas were, right? I get design teams that draw personas without problems first. I just go out talking to people. And when I understand their problems, I describe the personas from the problems. So it's a different mindset for it.
And what I'm getting from this is also, in my case, I did find people very invested in the problem. I was just being a little suspicious of the whole thing, in the sense that, hey, you know, I just struck gold right away. Maybe there's more people I need to talk to get a better understanding of the problem.
Yeah, the bigger value is not, it's not the problem. There are too many problems in the world. Ideas are cheap. It's the solution to the problem that you're trying to come up with. So if you find enough that have the problem and you can engage them, your big job is now to discover the best solution to that problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Cool. There are a few people that had questions that didn't reply back. So if you're out there, feel free to unmute. Adrian, you had a question? What do we got? Adrian, hey, all right, perfect.
Hey, let me scroll up and see what I wrote.
Jorge's on there. Okay, Jorge, you'll be next. Adrian, go for it. Jorge, you're next.
Okay.
You can just do that one. Wait 1 sec. All right, cool. Go ahead, Adrian. It was an important question, no pressure.
Sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, I guess the primary thing is just trying to figure out, like, how do you convince your organization that the engineers shouldn't just be building, and you need to, like, pull them out into discovery if they're not already, like, naturally doing that. I know my engineers are like, well, I need to be shipping.
Yeah, I mean, the whole coders code, engineership. Look, I had this conversation just recently with a CEO of a big company, and I said to him, oh, well, yes. So, you know, you pay engineers a lot of money. I was like, why do you pay them so much money? He's like, well, I think just because the market tells me to pay them. I'm saying, why does the market tell us to pay them? Well, I'm guessing they have a skill, a unique, they're very smart people. I'm like, oh, they are smart people. And then I go back to that Steve Jobs quote that I put out there. What? So I said, why are we hiring these smart people and just telling them what to do? You're just hiring them and all they do is just ship code. You know, we always said SVPG, if all your engineers do is shipping code or delivering software, we're not getting half of the value of them. They are smart people. The value we get from them is to solve hard problems. But what I do is I tell them stories of all the great innovations. I said, do you know where Alexa came from? Do you know where this Apple stuff came? Those ideas came from engineers. It surprises a lot of leaders. Like, really? And I bring stories of all of the Amazon. You see that shopping? An engineer came up with that idea. The most innovative solutions in the world today came from engineers. And you're like, wow. And you say, well, let me be clear. Those engineers are also in your company. There's no magical difference. Oh, maybe because they work for Amazon. No, the difference is that Amazon allows them to contribute to coming up with a solution. And that is why I want them in discovery. That's what you tell them. You say, look, you know, we're not getting to have the value. Plus, let me tell you this. They will be more accountable. They will have a bigger sense of ownership. But delivery will happen better because they came up with the solution. They understand it. All of their questions and concerns were answered upfront. And I told the CEO, I said, let us pick your last project. He said, what did you tell people to do? I told them we need to launch this for the Super Bowl. And he's like, look at that. All your engineer did was focused on the fastest way to do it. Wouldn't it be great if they focused on the best way to do it? He's like, but I think they can. I tell them to focus on the best way. I'm like, how do they do that? You measure them on what they're doing, not why they're doing it. You give them a roadmap. You tell them what to do. They didn't go. Of course, they are not thinking about the best thing. Right? Those are all cultural shifts. Good question.
All right, cool. Thanks, Gigi.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So let's go to Jorge. You ready? Your question?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, and if you want to turn on your video now, that'd be great.
Okay. Just let me try. No, because I cannot start my video.
No, hold on. Let's see what we got.
Okay.
That's weird. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, are you still in the meeting? Yeah, there you are.
Yes, yes.
Asked to start video. So you should see a little request from me.
Okay.
There we go. Awesome. Cool.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Hey.
Hey, thank you, Christian. That was a wonderful talk. I have a question that I was wondering when you're talking about the discovery and you mentioned the MVP, and I know the goal is like to validate your hypothesis and everything. So would the MVP be a part of the discovery process, or is it early on the delivery process? Because we have always like pressure from finance for the MVP to make some
Money.
Yeah.
Of course. It's not an MVP. The MVP is not a product. It's actually the smallest experiment that you can come up with to validate things. I am, in the technique that I mentioned, as you can see, there's no MVP in this. Because by nature of the technique, you're going for product market fit, the smallest actual product for your target customer. That's what that product market fit is. And so you're using this technique to say, I have real customers. Remember, you're discovering, you're answering those questions with evidence. Mm-hmm. See? So rather than saying, I'm doing a small experiment, which I now need to go test with customers, and then I keep tweaking it and tweaking it, because often where this rubs with people that say they are doing an MVP is people come up with them and say, how many people did you test this with? Mm-hmm. How many people need to use your MVP for you to believe that it is ready for the grand launch? That's always the aftermath question that I get companies go, and it's funny. So the goal here is like, if you go for product market fit, you are clear once you're done that you've solved the problem for a target market and you can launch it for them, right? So, I'm not knocking the MVP. It has unfortunately been bastardized a little bit. People, it's actually like an MVP test. It's meant to be an experiment. Maybe it's better to say minimum viable prototype than products, because people expect all the product things: production, working software, revenue, money, And how many times have you built an MVP where you say, I'm going to come back and tweak it? Do you ever do that? No, you don't. You go on to the next problem. And everybody says, so you never revisit an MVP. These are the problems with kind of the project mindset that many companies have.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So after you got like, you try to find this product market fit, and then you start transitioning to the delivery process. So yes. You find something and you start trying to find the technology to make it work.
Yes.
Like for real. Okay.
You're discovering and developing the product at the same time. That's why it's kind of like a pressure technique, because you have real customers that say, I have the problem, or if you solve it for me, I will tell other people. So the pressure is not the same, because you're not trying to build for scale. You're just trying to build it for 6 people or 25 people. So you're going to move faster. You're going to learn faster. Engineers love it. They make a change today. A real customer feedback comes tomorrow, right? They keep developing only the things that everybody wants, not the thing that one person wants. So it's easy to know what minimum is. Minimum is the thing everybody wants, not some people want.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good.
Great. Thanks, Jorge. Appreciate it, man. I would just chime in because I recently was talking with a client, and they were struck on the same issue. Like, well, an MVP's got to be something that we earn money on. Someone's got to be able to buy this thing. And realize, well, there's a spectrum. There's like the hardest hardcore MVP is we got to be able to sell this thing. That's pretty hardcore MVP, right? The next level in is like, well, can a company or can a client use it? Is it actually like working software? Can they use it? Right. And even that you don't need to do, because then the next one down is it something that we can show to them, right? And Marty talks a lot about different types of prototypes, as do I. And so that's something, especially B2B companies, that get wrapped around the axle. Like, if we can't sell it, it's not an MVP, right? And so. Anyway, so I think it's tough. Yeah, thanks for it.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. Cool. So then let's see. Chris, Hemant, or Sam, you guys had questions, and then we'll maybe do one more question. It's getting late over there for Christian.
Hey, hi. This is Hemant.
Okay, why don't we do Hemant, and then whoever that was, you'll go next. Go.
All right. Okay.
Sam. Okay, Sam's first, and then Hemant, and then we'll wrap it up. Go, Sam.
Okay. Hey, great. Thanks. So a quick question regarding how you measure progress through the product discovery process. So you get through the stage where you are trying to assess viability, feasibility, desirability, and gauge what's in the market before you move forward where you're ready to place your bet. What are the metrics that you use for success outside of, is it just the 25 customers or 8 customers we're all in? Or is there some in between where you can move things forward to feel more confident?
Yeah. So, I mean, part of why I love this technique is because it is almost that simple. I don't know how to stress it, you know, because people, when you go into many of the other techniques, you get into these metrics deeply. But, you know, the technique pretty much suggests that if these 6 people use your product in the real world, and they are saying, I am willing to put my reputation on the line, that it solved my problem. And while you were building the product, your stakeholders were involved because these are real customers, so they know what's going on. They are validating how to sell it, how to buy. You're answering all of those discovery questions at the same time. The day they all write their review, you are ready. That is as simple of the metric as it gets. It is not as simple as I'm describing it, but but it is as straightforward in terms of an outcome for when you're ready. It is not an easy thing to do. To get like in sync, 25 people that are like, yep, the product is ready, and I'm willing to tell other people about it. Right? But that is the singular metric of your success. and it's amazing what it will do, because to do that, I mean, everybody gets involved. Sales, engineer, back in your business, everybody knows. And you know, if somebody puts it on, I don't know, Facebook, you know, Sam's built the best product in the world, 25 people do it, your business knows it's serious, right? And they are going to use that to sell to other people. They're going to use it to market to other people. So those are all indications of readiness from a product market fit standpoint. Internally, you guys may need to do all of your go-to-market things and packaging and things, but at least from the work that you were called out to do as a product manager, that's what you're giving the company, right? That's the evidence you're giving them. Not only have I solved this problem, I've got 25 people that you can talk to as evidence that I have solved it. And they're in the market that you want. Great.
So Christian, is it fair to say then your progress towards that 25 number or that 6 number is kind of a macro metric? Like if you're 0, 0, 0, 0, hey, we got 1. Hey,
that's right. I mean, you see it on OKRs, people have the goals, get 6 reference customers, and they get excited about it. And it's, yeah, your progress is part of that. It's not easy, but yes, that's it.
Got it. Cool. Okay. And then Heman, I think you're on there for your question. We'll take the last question from Heman, which is also related to this a little bit. I think it's a great question.
Yeah. Hey, hi, this is Hemant. My question is related for the product pricing. So during product discovery phase, how do you know that whether customer will actually buy your product or not?
Great question.
Yeah.
It is the job of the product manager to assess value. This is something I don't play with at all. And I love this technique because you have real customers. See, if you want to access pricing, so this is what I do. I go to the customer if we plan to sell it for $69.99. I say, well, how do you like the product? Oh, I love it. It's great. I will buy it. People will say whatever they think you need to hear to get you out of the air. I'll say, oh, really? Well, how much would you pay for it? Well, I'll pay $20 for it. Well, we're selling it for $69.99. Do you think it's that valuable? Yes, of course. I think, okay, great. Well, I'm taking pre-orders right now. Can you pay for it right now? I don't really have a real product. What do you mean right now? I don't have cash? I take credit card. I make the customer give me their credit card. I take it. I say, thank you very much. I give it back to them. I just want to make sure this is valuable enough for you. Now, what I'm doing there is you're trying to test out value. You want to prove that it is valuable at the market price you want. I make people do, if it's B2B, I make them do a non-binding letter of intent to buy. It is called a contract, no contract. It's pretty much saying, sign a fake contract that you're buying. You're not bind to it, but sign the contract. I make people sign on napkins. I do all, but I need to be able to bring evidence to my team that people will buy it. And it's not just because they said it. I need real evidence of this. Now, if you have a pricing committee and a pricing team that works on those kinds of things in your organization, this technique is great because they don't have to guess. You don't have to make it up. In short, the market research is useless. Talk to real customers. These are real people that have the problem. They have committed to working with you. They've paid you stuff. You know, the challenge with this technique is whatever you charge your reference customers becomes your price in the market. Because if you worked with me and I gave it to you for $29, then I launch it in the market for $70. When your friend comes to you and says, do you like it? It's the best product. They'll ask you, how much did you pay for it? You're going to say, what, $29? You're like, why is mine $70? I want the same deal that Hammond has. So you have to be very careful with your pricing here, because whatever you price here becomes your price in the market. So I make the pricing team use these same people to discover the price. This is the whole, I don't know. That's why what should the price be? Why are you asking me? I'm not buying it. I'm the one building it. They said it's valuable. So do the pricing strategy and test with them. Make sense?
Yep.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Iman. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Dan, I saw somebody like that I may have worked with in
Oh.
actually building one of the products that I did. I don't know if it's Chris Eklund, or maybe it was just a
Yeah,
good.
that's the last person who had a question. Chris, if you're there.
Yeah, there he is.
Oh, hey, all right.
Look at this.
Hey, man. How are you?
He was part of, he worked for a while on the product I even just described. Look at this.
Good job, yeah.
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 That's good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hey, yeah, super quick. I was listening to Jared Spool the other day, and he was talking about the importance of getting product managers to be intimate with their customers. And the talk kind of went on and suggested that the role of a PM and a UX, because UX, we talk about designers, but one thing that designers bring to the table is that research capability, right? So how do you reach the customers? How do you structure questions in a way, right, that really gets to true needs and not just wants or desires or predicting the future? And so he hypothesized that he's like, he saw the product manager and a UX designer, those roles kind of merging, because there is a fair amount of overlap, right? So
yeah.
I just didn't know your thoughts on that. If you guys are seeing that kind of evolve, or
well, I tell this to teams. I get the question often. The way I say it to my kids is, it's the job of a refrigerator to cool the drinks inside of the refrigerator, not to drink the drinks inside of the refrigerator. It's the job of the designer or the researcher. People say, I did the research. That's not your job. Your job is to get the research, the insights, into the heads of the people on the team. The job of the data analyst is not to pull data, is to get the data and the insights into the head of the product manager and the people on the team. So you're absolutely right. You have the expertise, the skill sets to do all of these things, this unique energy to do it. It's flawed if it doesn't get into the heads of the team. And if you merge the role, what happens there is that you stretch the designer that has this expertise in doing this in a meaningful way, and you put pressure on them on things like viability. They start caring about internal stakeholders. They start mixing up their insights on customers with stakeholders. I've seen that happen. And it's not that it's just a really hard job to do product management. And it's also a really hard job to do product design.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
They both need to get the information into their heads when they do their jobs well. So, I mean, I can see it could make sense of some things merging in here, but I don't see how you do that without one of those disciplines suffering a little bit.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks, man.
Yeah, Chris, I would just add, this is an old topic. I love Jared. He's always controversial, right? Back in like 2011 or 2012, here in the Valley, PM has gotten hot in the last 2 years. Let's be honest, guys. It's really heated up. Like Wall Street Journal says, it's one of the top jobs. Design got hot back around 2012. Design was getting red hot before. So they did the little crossing the chasm before PM did. Right. And in the Valley, some startup people started going, well, we have rock star developers and we have rock star designers. Why do we really need a PM? You know what I mean? And so one of my designer friends invited me to go give a talk, and we talked about it. There's some overlap, but in an ideal world, like Christian's saying, they're both focused on customers and customer needs, but you got to figure out how to divide and conquer. Like you said, the PM is responsible for the value, and usually, and metrics and OKRs. Usually designers are eyes glazed over when you start talking about metrics and analytics and things like that. And conversely, like PMs, we're not the best at design. Those guys should be designing it. So yeah, I love the triad that Christian reinforced about PM, designer, and dev being the key team. So awesome. I'm glad you're able to reconnect with a former colleague. That's awesome. And we got through all the questions. So, and I know it's late. So thank you so much, Christian. Thank you again for an awesome talk, awesome fireside chat, awesome Q&A. Really appreciate it. And there's a lot of people that are in the chat saying thanks a lot. It was an awesome talk. Someone on Twitter said it was their favorite. We've been doing this for 6 years. Somebody said it was their favorite talk out of all the talks that we've given. A lot of passionate. When you get off here, you check Twitter tonight or tomorrow, you'll see all the tweets. So thank you very much, Christian.
I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Yep.
Take care.